Take the bait. 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 It's game day. It's not no regular Wednesday.
Welcome to Take the Bait, a sports talk show where two sports guys like ourselves, Ben Shoulders, Marcus Wilson, debate topics past and present. Before we go any further, we have to thank you, the viewer, for all your support, as our first episode got over 5,000 views and we were excited. Our second episode got over 50,000 views. And man, what can we say? We can't say anything but thank you.
Thank you, bro.
No, seriously, you.
No, seriously, thank you, bro.
But we couldn't do it without you continuing to engage with us. Tell us what you want to hear. Please continue to like, comment, share here on YouTube and all of our other social media platforms, which we are on IG, Twitter, TikTok. Just search up Take the Bait Show and you'll find these two mugs right there staring at you. All right. Our first topic today is who has had a greater impact on the game of basketball? Steph Curry or LeBron James? Ben, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. How about you start us off?
Sure. Well, both players, Marcus, have had great impacts on the game of basketball in the last 20 to 25 years. No doubt about it. But I'm going to say LeBron James. 25 years ago, LeBron James was a junior in high school. He was labeled the chosen one. Okay. No one has had the pressure LeBron James has had. So the impact on young players, even since then, he has made by exceeding expectations, not delivering expectations, exceeding the expectations that he's had, whether it's the chosen one, King James, whatever nickname you want to give him, he's exceeded them. So from a young player standpoint, he's had that impact. But also on the older players, he'll be 41 years old next month, 41. He made second team All-NBA last year as a 40-year-old, okay? First player ever to do so. So he's saying to the older players, look, you can still do it because I'm doing it now. So the impact on older players as well he's making. And then, of course, off the court. Nobody's taking better care of their body than LeBron. Nobody has had to deal with the social media that he's had the last 20 plus years. You know, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic, they didn't have social media when they played.
Yeah.
Not to mention giving back to his community and all the while never having a scandal, never having issues, never having problems his entire career. So the impact off the court he makes is so great. So those three reasons, to the young players, to the old players, and off the court, are the reason I am picking LeBron James.
That's hard to argue with that. You're right. Not only has his production on the court been awesome, but off the court, I do give him credit for oftentimes speaking up on social issues that sometimes he got in trouble for. Sometimes he took heat for that, but at least he wasn't afraid to speak up, unlike you said, some of the past stars. And I don't think that Michael Jordan's legacy would be the same as what it is if we had social media and cell phones back then. LeBron has done a great job of that. And, you know, I think that you made a lot of good points. But I am going to go with Steph Curry. And I'm going to tell you why. There are only a few guys who I think have literally changed the game of basketball. I'm going to name a couple of them. Lou Alcindor. They changed the rules. They changed dunking because he was so dominant. They said, you know what? You can't dunk anymore. Literally changed the rules of the game. So he came up with the sky hook and became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the great player that he was. I think that Magic did change the game in terms of having a big guard. I think Oscar had done that before, but they saved the NBA. Had they not come through at the time they did, you know, it was starting to get riddled with drugs. People weren't coming there. They literally saved the NBA. So I'm going to say that they changed the game in that aspect. Then, of course, Jordan. Jordan had everybody going around talking about, I like to be like Mike. I don't care what color you were. I don't care if you couldn't jump 2 inches off the ground. Everybody wanted to be like Mike. And he changed the game. Allen Iverson changed the game with the crossover, where you started to be able to carry the ball as you dribbled. And Steph Curry has literally changed how basketball has been played. Let me give you a stat to prove it. In 2008, in the NBA, teams averaged 16 threes per game. Shot, not made. They shot 16 threes a game. In 2024, that number was up to 37.5. That's a 230% increase in threes shot per game. You want to know what the coincidence was? Steph Curry was drafted in 2009. He came in bombing threes, and every player, what I love about Steph Curry, he had what I call the Tiger Woods effect. Every player, I don't care how tall, short, color you were, every parent could take their kids and say, you can be like him, because he had a skill that you could reproduce. Now, not many can reproduce it at the level he can, but It's not like you're Giannis. Most of us can't take our kids to the NBA game and say, hey, you can be like Giannis. No, you can't. He's 7 foot and he's a genetic freak. Steph Curry changed the game. He allowed everybody to see a portion of themselves out there and just changed how the game was played from shooting the amount of threes and the spacing and so forth and so on. So I just think how he literally impacted the game with his play and say that he changed the game a little bit more than LeBron. But I do think it's close and LeBron has done wonders for the game. No slight to LeBron on that. All right, our second topic. I'm really excited about this because I love college basketball. I know you do too. I think that you're one of those guys. You probably know the blood type of the 1976 Hoosiers team, and you know every statistical analogy out there. So let's hear some of the things you have to say about this. Who will be in the national championship game this year in college basketball? Ben, go ahead and let us know what you think.
There's going to be a lot of great teams as there were last year. But if I had to pick two, I'm going with the Houston Cougars and the UConn Huskies in the national championship. Houston lost a heartbreaker this past season to Florida, 65-63. They have 3 starters back from last year. Last year, they won 35 games and went 19-1 in the Big 12. They're led by a freshman named Chris Sinek Jr., who's a stud. They're preseason number 2 in the AP poll, their highest preseason ranking since 1967-68 with Elvin Hayes. And in some polls, they're number 1. Coached by Kelvin Sampson, as we all know, they're going to play defense, defense, defense. So that's why I think Houston makes it back to Indianapolis in the Final Four this April. And my other side is going to be UConn. Dan Hurley had to battle some injuries last year, but won back-to-back, as you know, in 2023, 2024. Alex Caravan was a starter on those 2 teams, and he withdrew from the NBA draft, and he's back again this year. So he has a starter still from those teams, and a stud freshman class and a stud in general named Braylon Mullins from Indiana, and some great international players as well. They won 37 games 2 years ago when they were healthy. They just weren't healthy last year. And now if they can stay healthy, play a little defense, this team, and Dan Hurley calls this team his deepest team he's ever had in his career. So I think it will be Houston and UConn and Indianapolis. I don't know who wins. I think if I had to say, it'd be a squeaker. High 60s, low 70s. I think Houston barely takes them. I think Kelvin Sampson wins his first national championship.
I love Houston. I literally mimic how they play defense. I study film on them. Love Houston. Obviously, you can't debate too much on Coach Hurley, but you see the background change right there. You made some really good points there, Ben, and I love those 2 teams. I think Florida has a chance to really make a run again. Don't sleep on Kansas. Darren Peterson is one of the best high school players that I've seen in a long time. People don't know when he played against AJ DeBanza last year, he gave him 61. The kid is special, and guards win games. But the teams that I'm going to go with, Purdue Boilermakers and the Duke Blue Devils. Matt Painter has done a great job of maintaining his nucleus, led by first-team All-American Braden Smith, which many people think is the best point guard in the country. And I do think guards win ball games. He won the Bob Cousy Award last year as the best guard in college basketball. Trey Kaufman-Renn was a third-team All-American. So they're returning 2 All-Americans, 4 starters, and just with the culture that Matt Painter has built, they have gotten there. They've been close. And I think this team learns how to get over the hump and get to the national championship game. And I think they're going to play the Duke Blue Devils. And the reason why is they lost to Houston last year in the Final Four. Yeah, they lost a lot, but the amount of talent they have, I mean, John Shire, let me just pause on this, has done a great job of maintaining what Coach K has done. Most people in coaching profession say, never follow the legend. Follow the guy that followed the legend. It was impossible to follow Jay Wright at Villanova. It's been very hard to follow some of the great coaches who have retired. There's always like a lapse. There's been no lapse. John Shire is recruiting and performing at a high level. You have Foster, who was not a McDonald's All-American, but those of you on the inside know he was a McDonald's All-American. And then somebody got into All-American voters and at the last minute decided to put Bronny James in there and they snubbed Caleb Foster. Take that and go do your research on that one. We might have to talk about that on a later episode. But he was a McDonald's All-American. Isaiah Evans literally was a McDonald's All-American. Many compare him to Brandon Ingram, talented scorer. Darren Harris is coming off the bench. He was a 4-star, great shooter. They have another big man coming back who was a top 25 player. And you also have Cameron Boozer. Let me just tell you what Cameron Boozer has done in the preseason. Against University of Central Florida, a Big 12 team, Power 4 conference, gave them 33 points and 12 rebounds. Then you say, oh, okay, well, they're not supposed to be good. Then you play a top 20 team in Tennessee, and he gives them 24 points, 23 rebounds, and 6 assists. The kid is going to be probably a first-team All-American. When you add that with the returning guys that they already have, they have another top 15 player coming in, another 5-star. Malik Brown is a great defender. I think that they're deep. I think that they have the talent. And I just think that, again, both of these teams brought back enough of their bench to where they were able to keep their culture, be able to keep the continuity from last year. And I think that they get it rolling at the right time, and we see them in the national championship game. Yeah. Our next segment we have here is called Rapid Fire. Who are your top 5 NCAA teams since the three-point line was introduced in the 1986-87 season? Of course, we didn't want to go too far back where it could get too convoluted. So we said since the three-point line. Ben, another one. This is probably a softball for you. I know you know college basketball at the back of your hand. Let me hear your top 5 through 1, please.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, if I count them down, and this was tough, Marcus. There's been some great teams the last 40 years in college basketball, but I'm going to count them down from 5 to 1. Number 5, the 2009 University of North Carolina Tar Heels. Led by Tyler Hansborough, who had won AP Player of the year before that as a junior, came back for senior year for one reason, to win the national championship. They also had Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington, and Danny Green, who won 3 NBA titles with 3 different teams in an NBA career. That team won 34 games. They won the ACC, but they saved their best for last. They got to the NCAA tournament. Their average margin of victory in the 6 games, 19.8 points. They blew everybody out. They got to the Detroit. I was actually there for that Final Four. They got to Detroit, Michigan, played Michigan State. Everybody thought Michigan State would win because it was almost like a home game for them. North Carolina won by 17 and was up by as many as 30. So that was Roy Williams and that group. That team was tough. That was my number 5. Number 4, the 2001 Duke Blue Devils. One of the best starting 5s I've ever seen. Shane Battier was Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Most Outstanding Player of the tournament. They also had Jay Williams, Chris Duhon, Mike Dunleavy, and Carlos Boozer. They won 35 games. They were resilient. They were down 22 points to Maryland, their ACC, rivalry in the Final Four, came back and won. Then they beat a really good Arizona team in the championship by double figures. That team also, as a side note, not only coached by Mike Krzyzewski, but had an all-former Duke player staff in Johnny Dawkins, Chris Collins, and Steve Wojciechowski. So very impressive there. That team was really, really good, especially their starting 5. Number 3, a more recent team. We mentioned them on the earlier segment, the 2024 UConn Huskies. They not only won back-to-back, they were 37-3. They had 4, not 2, not 3, but 4 players drafted in the same draft that year, coached by Dan Hurley. They really poured it on. And I'll say this, they set the NCAA record, tournament 1985, for the largest margin of victory at 23.3 points per game. Their closest game in the tournament was 14. That team dominated when it got to the tournament. They are number 3 for me. Number 2, the 1992 Duke Blue Devils, another Duke team, led by Christian Laettner, who was Player of the Year. They were 34-2 that year. Also had Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley, who set the NCAA record and still holds it for career assists. They beat 3 great teams along the way in the tournament. They beat Kentucky, as everybody knows, the Christian Laettner shot with 2.1 seconds left in the Elite Eight. Then they beat a great Indiana team with Calbert Chaney in the Final Four. Then they blew out the Fab Five in the national championship by 20 points. And they also won back-to-back that year, coming off winning it in 91. That team was really, really good. But my number 1 team, Marcus, is the 1996 Kentucky Wildcats. They were called the Untouchables for a reason. They were also 34-2. They went 16-0 in the SEC. They had 9, count them, 9 NBA players on their team. Okay? They would press you and run all game. They're by far the deepest team of all time. Their starting 5 was Derek Anderson, Tony Delk, Walter McCarty, Antoine Walker, and Mark Pope. Off the bench, they had Ron Mercer and Wayne Turner and Jeff Shepard. And their 12th man was Nazir Muhammad, who played 18 years in the NBA and won a world championship with the Spurs in 2005. They won 21.5 margin of victory, which was the record until UConn 2 years ago, and it was Rick Pitino's very first title. They are the number one team in my book the last 40 years, and again, that's why they're called the Untouchables. There's my 5, Marcus, 5 through 1.
You know, Ben, I love that list. We have some similarities, but not all things are the same here. I got to start off. There was too many teams that I feel were right there on the edge. So I kind of got outside of the norm, and I'm going to give you a couple honorable mentions just because they were so close. The 1990 UNLV team that was 35-5 that beat Duke by 30 points in the championship game with Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, and others. Those were 3 pros. They were just flat out scary. All that yelling that players do nowadays, Larry Johnson started that. Grandmama, go do your research. The 1999 Duke team, 37-2, had won 32 in a row. Everybody thought that they were going to win it. They go and they lose to the 1999 UConn team. They were averaging 92 points a game. Elton Brand was dominant that year. They had 5 first-round draft picks on that team. Elite, but they didn't win the national championship. Another really good team is the 2015 Kentucky team, 38-1, dominant all year. Got upset by Wisconsin in the Final Four. Again, Karl-Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, just some guys who were really, really good and a bunch of pros. But here is my 5 right here. We're going to start off with 2007 Florida, 35-5, shot 41% from 3. They were shooting threes at a high level before people were really doing it. I thought their offense was incredible. 3 pros, one of them is actually still playing, Al Horford. He plays for the Golden State Warriors right now. But Al Horford, Joakim Noah, Corey Brewer, they were lottery picks. They gave up only 62 points a game. That team was dominant. Number 4 that I have is the 1999 UConn team that beat that really good Duke team. They were really good, 34-2, led by Rip Hamilton, Khalid El-Amin, Jake Voskuhl. They also had a couple guys, Kevin Freeman, Ricky Moore, and Rashamel Jones was another player who came off the bench, who was a pro. 4 pros on that team. 1999 UConn is my number 4. My number 3, who was on your list, the 1992 Duke team. I mean, they were special. Christian Laettner, he's one of the few guys that we could talk about that we would say was an Olympian right there. He played on that dream team. Christian Laettner, he swept every Player of the Year award. Grant Hill played 18 years in the league. Bobby Hurley was the 7th pick of the draft. They went back-to-back, dominant. Thomas Hill. They were number 1 from start to finish. Even when they lost games, the voters knew that, hey, that was a fluke. We're still going to keep them number 1. They also had Cherokee Parks, another player who played quite a few years in the NBA. Multiple pros again. My number 2 is the 2001 Duke Blue Devils, 35-4. Shane Battier. He was AP Player of the Year and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Let me tell you how good these guys were. They had 2 guys who won Player of the Year. Shane Battier was AP Player of the Year. Jay Williams was NABC Player of the Year. 2 studs. I had Mike Dunleavy. They won the NCAA tournament games by an average of 17 points a game. You know who else they had on that team? Chris Duhon, Carlos Boozer, Nate James, Dante Jones. Kind of all those guys played in the NBA. They were special. And my number 1 team, I think it's really hard to go against what you already said. The 1996 Untouchables of Kentucky, 34-2. They had 9 NBA players. I don't even know how you do that. The amount of recruiting and the amount of development and the competition in that practice had to be elite. Until someone puts 10 NBA players in the NBA for one roster, I'm going to have this team as my number 1 team of all time until somebody beats it. And our last topic is bringing back the NFL. We're right in the heat of football season. I'm loving the competition that we're having out there. And we're going to talk about who is the best team in the NFC and in the AFC right now. Ben, how about you let us know what you're thinking?
So AFC is more clear to me than the NFC, Marcus. I think the AFC right now, and I think they'll continue this momentum, Indianapolis Colts. Best record, only lost 1 game so far this year. Daniel Jones is having a great, great season. And what can you say about Jonathan Taylor? I mean, he's every week either 3 touchdowns or 150 to 200 yards. It's amazing what he's doing. So the Colts are my pick for the AFC. The NFC gets really dicey. I'm going with last year's Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll tell you why. If Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley can play the way they played last season, and they've shown that they can this year off sometimes. Week 8, Barkley had a great game. Week 7, Hurts had a great game. But if they can put together and both do what they did last year, similar, ironically, to what Jones and Taylor are doing for the Colts, They'll be back. So I think right now I'm taking the Colts and the Eagles as my 2 NFC, AFC picks.
I can respect that. There's a lot of good teams right now. This is really hard to just choose just one. You know, the Eagles are obviously they have championship pedigree. The Bucks are looking good. There are multiple teams that are really looking good. I'll start off with the AFC as well. Maybe you guys think we're both being homers just because we're from Indianapolis. I mean, we're from Indiana, but I'm going with the Colts as well. They have the best record in the league. They lead the league in yards and points. They have the best running back in the league. Who'd have thought that Daniel Jones would be the quarterback of the best team in the league, how he was looking a few years ago. He's just revitalized his career. You have Tyler Warren. He's doing great. You know, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce is averaging 21 yards per play. So it shows that they have that big play ability. And defensively, they are sixth in the NFL in points per game at 19 points a game. And also, you know, they're clogging up the line with 2024 All-Pro DeForest Buckner. I just think that offensively, defensively, and they got it rolling right now, that they are the clearly best team in the AFC. In the NFC, I'm going with the Detroit Lions. I'm going with the Detroit Lions. Man, this is a Midwest thing. I would love to see the Midwest represented in the Super Bowl right here. They're third in points in the NFL. They can run, they can pass. Like Jared Goff is playing at a very high level. Amon St. Brown is one of the best receivers in the league. You got to have balance to be considered the best, and they can pass the ball. They also have Jahmyr Gibbs, who anybody who plays fantasy football, they knows he's a stud. Aiden Hutchinson is doing his thing on defense. But one of the most important reasons is Dan Campbell. He told you he was going to have them biting people's knees, and they are. They're coming. They're just gritty. I mean, I love the grit of this team. They encompass what Detroit is. I love to see the city of Detroit circling up around them and getting behind them, because they do remind you of what Detroit is. Just a gritty, hard-nosed team who's going to fight you to the end. I love their culture, and I think that the Detroit Lions and the Indianapolis Colts are not only the best teams right now, but they're also who we're going to see in the Super Bowl at the end of the year. And I think that'd be great for the Midwest.
Wow.
That does it, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Take the Bait. Man, I'm having fun here. You know, we just started off as two guys just wanting to like talk our trash. Next thing you know, we're on here getting 50,000 views. Again, we couldn't do it if it wasn't for you. And you know what? We talk about MVPs the last episode. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. But I just want to remind you guys again who the real MVP is. You the real MVP for checking us out. Thank you so much, Ben. You got anything to say to close us out?
Thank you for tuning in to Take the Bait. We want to hear from you.
We're out.
Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait.
Get off your phone and get in the zone. Put down the sticks, leave the studio alone. I got my squad with me and we ready. If you got your squad with you, get ready. Take the bait.
Take the bait.
Take the bait.
Take the bait.
Take the bait. Baby, get out.